on.
Good evening. Welcome back to Passionate Internet Voices Talk Radio. Ann Arbor, Michigan, ranked number 1 by the AARP as the most livable city in the United States. It's also the broadcast home of PIVTR, InternetVoicesRadio.com, available for your listening pleasure. And now from 8:30 to 9, The Screaming Woman with Toni Quest. Good evening, Toni.
Good evening, Lillian. How are you today?
Pretty good.
Good. Okay, the most livable city. Okay, Ann Arbor, Michigan. What are we going to do to seduce you back to New York? The center of the universe. We know that, right?
Oh, yes, we do.
Yes. Anyway, I have a really great guest today. Her name is Ellen Mayer. She is a visual artist. And from what I understand, also, you're a poet, correct, Ellen?
Yes, I am. You're right. I was wondering how you knew that.
How did I know that? I know things about people that they're always surprised that I know.
That is a surprise.
Yeah. So you're using your right brain in many ways.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Tell me about how you started out in art.
Okay, well, it really started as a young child. I just always picked up a pencil, and I loved to doodle with it, but I never thought anything or if I had any, more talent than anybody else. But one day I decided to start taking the pencil and do a little more intricate type of work. So I would start and I would draw these little pictures, and I said, hey, I can draw something there. And as I got older and I went to school, they started noticing that I had some kind of talent, which I still didn't think I had. But what had happened was, by the time I got into, I think it was junior high school, at that point they had special art classes. And before I knew it, I was put into an art class that was for talented, emerging, young people that like to draw. And it was, nothing really, it was paint, and I don't even recall what the things we had to draw, but I remember liking it a lot. And that got me started with my, career towards getting interested in art.
Yeah, and you're really quite popular, and I have to say that I really like your art a lot because it sort of speaks to me. You're really into the face.
Yes.
And tell me why. I know why I'm into the face, but tell me why you're into the face.
Well, I know. I had seen your art, and I was amazed how much it reminded me of mine. Yeah. I think what's really funny about me is that I come across, and if people meet me, and I'm very bubbly, and I'm very smiley, and that's my personality. I'm very upbeat. Uh-huh. But when it comes to my art, it comes out a little differently. It comes out a little more serious, and people are very surprised when they actually see who the artist is. They don't think it could be me that could come out with these things. And a lot of my friends ask me all the time, where do you get that from? And I think it's a matter of growing up in New York, and I took the train, and I was a big people watcher, and I love to watch people's faces, and I was always intrigued by people's faces. And I remember that's what I like to draw. As I started illustration, I always liked to draw faces. Then from there I got more into it and into the body. And very luckily, as an 18-year-old, yes, graduating from high school, I wanted to be an artist. And in those days, it was back in, I'm going to date myself now, but it was back in the early 70s, let's say. And at that time, times are different. And I would take my portfolio, the one that I had from high school, and go to a regular job as a secretary, which, by the way, I was terrible at. And I was never a good secretary. And I worked for a very famous place called Yves Saint Laurent. Like, they had Charles of the Ritz and the makeup they sold. And I was never, I don't know, I just couldn't. They kept on putting me in different departments. But
trying to figure out where you find yourself. Right?
Yes, but on my lunch hour, as if I thought they didn't know it, Toni, I would hide in my closet like a huge portfolio that there's no way you could walk in anywhere that you would know that you're not hiding a portfolio,
right,
you know.
They're going to notice that.
Yes, but what I did is they were very nice there. I would go on my lunch hour because in those days you got an hour lunch, you know, and I would go on my lunch hour, and I would take the train, and I would go on these interviews. Like, you know, in the paper at the time, you didn't really go through too many, you know, you didn't have to go through people that would get you the jobs. You could actually go to the jobs.
Right.
And I remember it was only like around, I was working at this place for 2 months, and I went at lunchtime, took the train to 40th Street, West 40th Street, and they were interviewing, and a whole bunch of people were coming in at the time, and I had my portfolio, and I only had an hour, and they, believe it or not, it was the first place that asked me to actually sit down and draw. They had something specific that they wanted me to illustrate, and they said, do this for us, right? So I did it for them, didn't think anything of it. They collected it. They called in the next person, didn't think anything of it. 2 days later, to my surprise, Toni, I get a phone call, and they go to me, you got the job.
Wow.
And I went, what? So here I was, an 18-year-old girl, you know, young and naive at the time, quit my other job. I was, like, so excited.
Yeah,
I think I started working within 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, went into the place, felt totally, if I tell you as an artist, I felt that's where I belonged.
You knew you were home.
Yeah, I was comfortable. You know, when I was working as a secretary, I felt awkward. I never felt like I really fit there. I fit there socially, but not for what I was doing. I was trying to be something I wasn't, you know?
Right, okay. And you sound very personable, so I can't imagine that they objected to you. As a secretary, I can imagine you answering the phone and just people being engaged. But at the same time, you knew what was really going on inside of you?
Right. I knew that my goal was not to be a secretary, that I was just taking this at the point to make the money, and then I would go on. So the funny thing is, I get this job, and there's only 2 other artists on staff, and it was a buying office, and we did illustrations for the Midwest, for their catalogs.
Right.
And it was so wonderful. And I used to sit there all day because I worked, it was called in-house at the time. I wasn't freelance.
Okay.
And I used to sit there from 9 o'clock in the morning to, I think it was even 5:30, and we had an hour lunch. And I almost had a giggle within me, and I would say to myself, I cannot believe that I am getting paid for doing something that is so easy to me and that I absolutely love. And I almost would leave work feeling guilty because they paid me for this.
For being so happy and having such a good time and making money.
Yes, it was like, I'm sure it's like people that actually become actors and actresses, you know, and they can't believe they're doing something they love. And at that time, business was different. I worked for, it was very, it was more a lighter type of atmosphere, and you know, I even back then in the early 70s, I was able to go to work in jeans, which I felt much more comfortable as, you know. It was amazing, and I worked there for a couple of years, and I even worked there until I got married. And the best part was of this whole deal was that when I was getting married, because I knew every buyer that came in, because I always got the clothes and the sample sizes and everything, and what they would tell me is, oh, you're getting married? Here's my card. Go over to 9th Street to my buying office, whatever, and you could pick out any gown you want, anything. I ended up getting an entire wedding gown for $75.
Oh, my gosh. You know?
I'm not kidding you. So it was like, it was the best job. And from there, like I said, I went on and I stayed in my art. But that's how I really really began to start concentrating and liking faces and making, you know, them pose a certain way and really seeing people who they really are.
When you were a child, I'm wondering, I just am curious about this, because sometimes I feel like you're my sister from another mother.
Oh, that's
you
so
know?
funny. Maybe I am.
Maybe you are. You know, when you were on the subway, okay, did you find yourself staring at people and your mother would have to snap you out of your trance?
Yes, the problem is...
Yeah, right. I was like...
Yes, the problem is I'm still like this, and I could just sit anywhere in a mall or anywhere, and I look at everybody's face. And, just the other day, my husband and I stopped at a little restaurant, and there was this little tiny old, Asian man sitting there. And I said to my husband, I got to go home and I got to paint this man.
Right.
And that's how it was. And then I paint a lot, as you know, because you have seen my work. But for those who don't know, I paint a lot with color. I love purples and reds and yellows. And I think that's a way of expressing myself. I think,
of course.
Yeah, I think that as a child, I was maybe afraid to really express myself, and that I ended up doing it later in life on paper. And
That could definitely be. Did you spend a lot of time by yourself as a kid?
No, not by myself so much. I had friends, but I always felt like I was a little, I don't want to say different, but a little bit off the beaten path of everybody else. And I always felt that something else is going on, but I didn't know what it was until really later in life that I realized that even though I'm still friends with the same people and I still feel very close, but now I see who I am. And I'm proud of who I am. I never used to be proud of it,
Really? Why not?
I used to think, it's really funny, I used to think that I was guilty, really feeling that I should be doing something else in life and that this is too easy for me and it's a cop-out. And I felt like that I wasn't doing what everybody else was, working in this 9-to-5 job.
And miserable.
Yeah, as secretaries, because that's the way everybody went in those days, And even though I was working, I was happy, I kind of, now I'll talk about it and be proud of my accomplishments. But back then I didn't talk about it, and I didn't tell too many people about it.
Did you feel it was too easy?
I felt it was too easy, that I was almost like not really working to my potential, if I could say that, Yeah, I almost felt that way. Now I see it completely different. I see that I am working to my potential.
What do you think was in you that gave you the, I'd say the gumption, or I don't know what is the confidence, but the inclination to just simply follow your dream and not even consider that you should do something else? Because you're saying in the 70s they would say you'll starve. That's what I was told in the 70s. You'll starve.
Right. Well, I'll tell you something. I was never told from my parents. I was never encouraged, but I was never I was never discouraged, So I always felt my mother was a strong person, and she was a secretary, but very good at her job. And it was so cute now that I think back. We were poor, and we didn't really have money. We lived in the projects, and I wanted paper, but I never felt I should ask for it. So
my sister from another mother.
Yeah. So what my mother.
The way you talk, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So what my mother used to do is she used to bring me home the back sheets of her typing paper that they didn't use, like they typed on one side and then the other side was blanks, So that's what I drew with, So to this day it's funny because I don't need a lot of materials. I don't need anything special. I just feel I could do it,
Yes, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I just feel I could do it. But I've come a long way because I think I really evolved in, starting out as a fashion illustrator, but yet not feeling good about it, not really bragging about it or saying this is what I did, mostly was embarrassed about it. So now, years later, as I, evolved into this painter and I do photography and I do poetry, I realized that I had all this in me, but I was never able to really express it. And now I just I beat to my own drum now. I do it,
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It really is. I think it's remarkable that that you, like I said before, that you just simply followed your dream. You know, hiding your portfolio in a closet and naively thinking nobody noticed.
Yeah, I know. You know what? My friends even still say I am naive in a lot of ways.
That's the way to be. I think that's a good way for an artist to be.
Yeah, I guess so. At that point, you know, I never thought about not accomplishing it. You know, I kind of am a very positive person in life, you know, and I always feel like even at the point where I am now, I went back to school at age, I was in my 40s, and I decided to go to college. I don't know if you know this, for the first time in my life.
Yeah. Oh wow, in your 40s.
In my late 40s, and I had never gone to college, and I ended up getting a degree, an AAS degree, and I got it in visual communications because I try to be a good business person at the same time, and I saw that things were changing in the field as a painter even, and as an artist and an illustrator, that everything became computers, and I felt that this is a part of me that I have to learn. So I went back to school, and I did learn computer graphics, and I'm a person that does many things. Besides my paintings, which I have a passion for and having shows, I also am a computer graphic designer, and I design logos and brochures for people. So I incorporate everything. What I try to do is take my fashion ability, my art ability in faces and painting and color, and my ability, what I have in graphic design and style, and try to put that all together. So I give people this one of a kind, that they're not getting a cookie cutter type of artist.
Right, right.
So that's what I really pride myself on, that they are getting an original.
Okay. And you know, when you say that you're very upbeat and you're very positive, I just want, if you don't mind, to share with the audience an exhibit that you're part of right now that's actually traveling. I was able to see it this past week in Manhattan at the Altman Building.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah, the Lilly Oncology on Canvas exhibit. Is that what they call it?
That's what they call it. And the reason, I could tell you a little bit of the background of that. I was diagnosed 5 years ago with a rare cancer called GIST, gastrointestinal stromal tumor, and it's in the lining of the stomach, and it's very, very rare, and they were able to resect it on me, but chemo doesn't work for that, or radiation. So I have to constantly, for the rest of my life, have CAT scans done. And I'm very lucky, and I've survived this, but I'm also a very positive person, like I said. And the person that runs the GIST program, her name is Tanya, had sent me this thing on oncology competition. And she says, you know, because you're an artist, why don't you see if you would like to enter this? It was called Lilly Oncology on Canvas Art Competition and Exhibition. So right away I said, oh my God, I'm going to do this. This will be easy. I'll pull out one of my paintings, right? Well, little did I know, I find out that it's not that easy, because they send me a contract with all these papers that it can't be a painting you have. It can't be a painting you've shown before. It has to be, something that you've done, for this specifically. And there was all these rules and regulations and the sizes and everything. And I looked at this stuff, and you can't show it to anybody. And I looked at all this paperwork, and I said, I'm not going to bother with this. But then something said to me, you know what? I feel like there's a reason I got this, because I try to incorporate having cancer with survival and being an artist, and everything comes together. So what I did is I sat very patiently, and I filled everything out, and I said, all right, now I got to come up with a painting. And sure enough, after a little while, I got myself to come up with a painting, wrote everything they wanted me to write, and I wrote a little poem about it. Yeah. I sent it in 9 months ago. Didn't think anything of it, completely forgot about it. And then one day I get a letter that says that you were chosen as one of them to your painting's going to show at this Altman building. There was like 600 entries, you know. And
it was really quite something. There was a lot of art, and you were in there, and I was able to pick yours right out.
Oh, you're kidding me. That's great.
Of course.
And it was great. It was great because I felt like not only would I be able to put my art in there and talk about GIST and let it known, but it also made me feel like I was part of something more, you know, than just doing art, part of this cancer, part of what everybody's going through. And like you said, it was shown. I went down there, and I was so impressed with everybody else's art also. It was wonderful.
What's interesting, though, about this, which shows like that you really had your heart in this, it wasn't a complete like ego stroking for you.
No.
Because what's interesting about this exhibit, and I'll tell the audience because I was there, is that nobody has their name displayed. There are no names displayed. It's just numbers. So I knew that Ellen Mayer was in this exhibit, and so just having seen her work, you know, before, seen it online, I had to go in and just figure out which one was hers. And so her style is so distinctive that it wasn't very difficult for me to pick hers out. And I thought it was interesting that nobody had their name displayed. No one's name was displayed on their art, and that was because of the HIPAA laws.
Right. Right.
Yeah, how did you feel about not actually being able to say, okay, here's my name, this is me, hello, it's my art? I just to do it like that.
I felt very good about it because I feel that I was doing it as an expression of what the name of my painting was called Always in My Head. Mm-hmm. And I know people cannot see this now visually, but it's a painting of a style that I do in almost an expressionistic style, and it's a face. And it's almost like, if you look at it, the face is never, whenever I do my paintings, Toni, I never really distinguish, is it a man, is it a woman,
is it... they're androgynous.
Yeah, what's going on in it. And once again, I didn't distinguish what it was. But the eyes were sad, but the lips were kind of a little happy. Mm-hmm. And it was a whole array of things going on in your head that you constantly, what I experienced and what I went through and the feelings I had. And it was all done like in a very moving type of way. And what I was trying to express with that was saying that everybody that goes through things in life, you still have to go on with your life. And I had to go on knowing that I wouldn't know my future, but that I would go on with life in a positive note. But yet this is always in my head, all these feelings that I had.
Right.
You know, so getting back to your question about how did I feel about not having my name on it, I felt kind of good about it because I didn't want to be known as, oh, this is Ellen's art. I wanted to be known as this is what's going on in this person's head,
right.
You know, and letting other people figure out who this person is.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
And it was interesting to also watch people like walk through this exhibit because, you know, many of us have been touched by cancer in one way or another.
Correct.
So it's a very moving exhibit. And, you know, it's an emotional exhibit, and it's a lot of emotional energy there was in that room. And I have to say that it's interesting to watch people linger. People would linger over a particular painting.
Right.
You know, just watching the exhibit attendees. They
right.
linger over it for a period of time. And, you know, you see a lot of tears in eyes. Because you go and you see, and then you just kind of relate to it based on what your experience was with a loved one or whatever. But very interesting exhibit. This exhibit is so special that it only was exhibiting in Manhattan for 2 days,
right.
and then it moved to, I believe, either Chicago
right.
or Indiana.
It's going to be traveling for 2 years across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are interested to know where it's going to be, if they want to catch it or see it, because it's going to go all over, even in Puerto Rico, which it started traveling on the 24th of October.
Right.
I'm sure they could go to Lilly Oncology Canvas. Let me find my
yeah,
paper.
Lilly Oncology is, I'll just talk while you look. Lilly Oncology is a pharmaceutical company, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And they produce drugs that are...
they produce, I think, with breast cancer, with drugs.
Right.
For breast cancer.
To help patients or, people that have been afflicted with I guess, various kinds of cancer, I imagine.
Yeah.
And I guess I imagine that the breast cancer is I don't know what the drug is, but I think it's really, I guess it's commendable for them to come up with something like this because art definitely is a healer. You know, I can attest to that.
Yes.
And it's also something that's very universal in terms of who it speaks to. And Ellen, actually, her work is fantastic, and you can see a sampling of her work in general, other pieces. You can see it on her website, which is, what's it called, Mayer, M-A-Y.
It's
www.mayergalleryart.com.
Correct.
mayergalleryart.com. And you'll see her art there. Her art is really special, and she is into the face, which is why I enjoy interviewing her so much at this time, because I'm into the face. And she captures the emotion, and her work is androgynous. And it even supersedes race. You can't tell what the race of these faces are. Am I correct in saying that?
Absolutely. I'm listening to you, and I think you got it down because I don't really have ever seen race. A lot of people think that I'm drawing certain races, but really it could be anybody, anywhere. I tend to make paintings of faces in crowded places because I want you as the viewer to say, what is going on here? Are these people afraid or something happening, or do they feel hopeful, or what is really going on? I think, everybody, I have a particular painting called What I See, and that painting is very meaningful to me because when everybody sees it, they don't understand why I painted half of a face, and I feel everybody in life, when you meet them for the first time, you never really meet the whole person. You're only seeing the half they want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people do show what they want to see, and it's their prerogative. And, what I see is interesting, too. And also it's kind of, if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking about which piece that is. That's a piece where this person is really alone.
Yes.
Which is unusual for you.
Yes. Yes, that person is alone, which is unusual for me because I usually do make a lot of faces in a crowded area. But I think that I did this because at the time that I did it, I really felt like in my life I didn't know if people really knew who I was. I think now people are getting a better understanding that I am more than a person that just smiles and, very bubbly, that I have more substance to me than that, which it's a good thing to have, but I just, I've just learned later in life, no matter how old you are, you can become whatever you want in life, and you create your life, and that's my philosophy towards life now, and I'm not stopping anywhere soon with retiring. My thing is I would love to show in museums eventually, and I'm hoping this piece that's going around the country for 2 years will make somebody think and make, somebody not think about who the artist is, but touch them with how I painted that painting.
Yes, it's a very healing piece, and the exhibit itself, the Lilly Oncology exhibit, is a very healing exhibit. I had to say I went in there, and felt a little tearful walking around, but that's because every single piece in there hits home.
Yes.
And, you find there are certain pieces that just strike you right where you live,
Yes.
And, I wish we had more time to talk because, I love your art, as you know, and you do have things to say, and you have your website, but do you have any other exhibits scheduled?
Right now, that's what's going on. I don't want to talk too much about it yet, but in the future, if we get together again, I do have a partner and I have a patent, believe it or not, for a design that the two of us incorporated that's going to be coming out soon, and hopefully it'll change the way women dress. So something to look forward to with that.
I look forward to that.
Yes.
See, I'm not a fashionista, but I'm always interested in fashion.
Great,
Go
great.
figure. I can't figure out myself on how I dress. It's very weird. People always want to do makeover on me.
Well, I think you look great.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
And I want to thank you so much for letting me be on the show tonight and letting me tell. And I appreciate you coming to my show. That was very important to me.
Oh, I'd like to see all of your shows.
Oh, thank you so much.
No, it was a very important show to go to. And, you know, anywhere you are out there in radio land, in internet land, if you hear about the Lilly Oncology exhibit, definitely go see it. And in the meantime, go to Ellen's website, which is www.mayergalleryart.com, and check out her art. She's really very special. And I'll ask everybody to come back again next week and listen to me again. I'll have another guest. And, thank you so much. You know, Ellen, you're cool. You are my sister from another mother. We have to talk more.
Yes, we definitely will. Okay. Thank you again.
Okay, my pleasure. You have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you very much for listening to Passionate Internet Voices Talk Radio. You've just listened to Toni Quest and the Screaming Woman with Ellen Meyer, and they spoke about her art. If you want to hear these ladies all over again, please go over to http://internetvoicesradio.com. On the left-hand side of the page, you'll see the word archives. Click on that. A list of names will appear. Tony's among them. If you want to download the MP3 stream, please go down to the lower right-hand side of the page where it says VIP. Click on that. Sign up as a free member, and for $2.60, you can download the MP3 stream into your iPhone, iPod, cell phone, or a portable player. PIVTR, whether providing you with the advice of experts or giving a voice to the average person who would not otherwise be heard. PIVTR emphasizes quality and enriching programs for listeners' enjoyment. And before you go away and stray, Alfred Adler had this to say in 1939, "It is easier to fight for one's principles than to live up to them." Thank you all very much for listening. I hope you have a great evening. Our final program of the evening is Tom Sort's Poetry Show, and he'll be up pleasantly. Thank you very much, and remember, please keep listening. Thank you.